Okay, so next we have the armory, the sick bay, and the brig. So these locations are kind of special locations. Well, the army not so much. The army is really just for for attacking centurions on the boarding party track. Honestly, you never really want to have to be in here. Um, but sometimes you are. So ideally, you don't want to get centurions on on Galactica. But it's pretty straightforward. But you have to roll a 7 or an 8 to kill a Centurion on the boarding party track. If you with strategic planning, it's a 5, 6, 7, or 8, so it makes it 50-50. So it's not so bad, but that still means you have to spend a card and on average two cards and 2 die rolls to get to win it, or 4 die rolls, which is 4 actions, and that's kind of a lot. So. Yeah, killing centurions is not fun, but you have to do it sometimes. You just waste a ton of time. Sick bay. Okay, so sick bay is one of the hazard locations. You're not allowed to move into either one of the hazard locations indicated by the police tape, the caution tape around them. But sick bay you get sent to if you're in a location on Galactica and it gets blown up by a base star, or if you're in a Viper and it gets blown up by a Raider, then you end up getting sent to sick bay. And there's other things that can send you to sick bay. If you end up in sick bay, it just says the downside of being in sick bay is that you draw only a single card during your received skill steps, which really stinks. So if you're in sick bay, you really want to get out of sick bay, which means somebody needs to XO you before your turn. But of course, that could lead to all sorts of problems with other things that people are trying to do. So, and of course, the other part of that is they're XOing you to take a move action, which is kind of a waste of half an XO. So anyway. But that's kind of the downside of getting sent to sick bay. So as Cylons, if you can send a player to sick bay right before their turn, that's great because then they only get a single skill card. And in fact, there's a card, one of the Cylon reveal cards lets you force a player to discard 5 of their skill cards and then sends them to sick bay. Totally, pretty much decapitates their hand. So that's a good reveal. And if you can do that right before their turn, that's awesome. So you want to think about that if you have that reveal card, doing it to the person who's next after you when you reveal, or whose turn is next if you're revealing on somebody else's turn. That's the best person to do it to, probably. There are other things, where that could be helpful, like if there was a pilot in space who is maybe in a strategic location, right, sending them to sick bay. Obviously, just the big part of that is they're forced to move out of space, and now they can't defend, the civilian ships or whatever. So anyway, something to consider if you're a Cylon and you have that reveal power. If you're a human, like I said, the big thing is you want to get us out of sick bay before your turn. So you're asking people to use their executive order cards on you. All right, finally the brig. Okay, gosh. There's not a lot to be said about the brig, to be honest. You're in jail. You can only play 1 card into skill checks when you're in the brig. Now, that's actually not, like being a Cylon in the brig is not terrible, because you get all your cards every turn. So it means you can play into more skill checks, and you can play bigger cards into the skill checks. You just can't play... you can't play several cards into a skill check. You can also, you can also activate, what's it called? The brig on your turn. Anyway. So being in the brig isn't terrible if you're. I mean, it's bad. You don't want it, but I mean, I've stayed in the brig for a while after getting thrown in the brig before revealing, just to see if I couldn't figure out how to get out of the brig, especially if there's another Cylon that hasn't revealed yet that can maybe help you get out, or if people aren't sure if you're a Cylon. If you're a human and you're in the brig, you need to get out right away, okay? But that means you also have to give the other players time to trust you, because they probably threw you in the brig because they didn't trust you because you did something silly like, maybe you're a Roslyn and you picked the wrong thing, or you're Boomer and you picked the wrong thing, or whatever. So you got to give them time to trust you. You got to do helpful things, and as much as you can from the brig. And then of course, do a fair amount of complaining while you're in there. If you are a Cylon and you're in the brig, when you reveal, you don't get your reveal action. Okay, the reveal actions are, the nasty power that is listed on your reveal card, and you also don't draw your Super Crisis card, which really stinks. Okay, so being a Cylon in the brig is tough. You want to get out of the brig before you reveal. So, but again, you don't want to never reveal and never go up to the resurrection ship or the Cylon locations, um, you know, just because you're in the brig and you're worried that you're not going to get a super crisis, or you're not going to get. I mean, like at some point you just have to cut your losses, reveal, and get out. So I mean, that's kind of a little bit about the brig, and all of the the Battlestar Galactica locations. So next we'll talk a little bit about the Colonial 1 locations, and then we'll cover the Cylon locations and in another video, and then we'll be all done.